Hello, America. A brand new hour. The gang all here, Speedy, Greg, and Adler. And we have been looking forward to this. And that is our opportunity to visit with Scott Jennings and talk about the new book that'll be coming out in November. Scott, welcome to the Rick Burgess Show. How are you today, sir?
Rick, thanks for having me. I'm great. Greetings from the Louisville International Airport, by the way. It's an honor to be with you.
Well, look, there you're the pride of Kentucky. There you are in Louisville.
Yep.
So, we want, the book is The Revolution of Common Sense. This common sense phrase, I can't remember the first person who said it, or I would give them credit, but I certainly have been using it, is that we're living in a time where common sense became a superpower. That was the comment. So common sense is now a superpower. And you are saying in your book that we're all looking forward to, Trump is leading a revolution of the return to logic, to common sense. Talk about the title a little bit.
Well, I thought of it when I was listening to the president's inaugural address. He used the phrase there in the Capitol Rotunda in his inaugural. And I thought, that's how he has rebranded the Republican Party. And there's a bunch of people out there who don't call themselves Republicans or Democrats or even liberal or conservative, but they're attracted to this idea of common sense, that he's on the right side of most 80-20 issues in America. And that's how he's attracted all these people to the party. And so I thought, this would be a good book, actually. And I met with him in February and pitched him on it. He decided to cooperate. And I spent the 100th day in office with him in Michigan, where he used the phrase again there at his rally in Michigan. And so it's really, I think, been a recurring theme for him, but it really speaks to what I think the overall branding of the party is today. And of course, issue after issue has popped up during his first 100+ days that shows exactly why the phrase is apt for his administration.
True, and why there's been such a response to it. Talk a little. I did not know this, Scott, and it's shocking to me that this is the first book. Now, you're a writer, and you consider yourself a writer, but you've never written a book.
That's right. I've written thousands of newspaper columns and certainly other kinds of content, but never tackled a book. And so this time out, I decided to tackle a big one, which is, sort of Trump storming back into Washington and I think also fighting for Western civilization. All these issues we debate on a daily basis, we go back and forth on the political stuff. But the true issues at play in this world are the future of the West and the future of free speech. And I think Trump is sort of the bulwark against, all the people who would try to tear those things down. So I think there's things going on here in his administration that are just bigger than the daily Washington political fights. They're really macro issues. If we don't get those right, we won't be around to argue about the rest.
Well, watching you on CNN, and you wouldn't believe how many times we're here on the show cheering for you. But the things that you keep pointing out is what you're talking about in the book. It's some of these things are not political. They're just logical, and many times you've called everyone going, we as journalists should be applauding this right now. And the fact that we're not is could be even to our own demise. Don't we all want to be journalists again?
Well, that's how I approach my work at CNN, and that's how I approach this book. I used to be a journalist, right, when I was in college, and I thought I was going to be one, and I ended up going down the political route. But in my heart, I always approach things with an open heart and an open mind. I'm asking questions. What's the truth? What can we say that's true instead of a narrative? And I think that's where the media business has gotten off track. Promotion of narratives over just the facts. And I think also the promotion of activism over journalism and this reflexive need to always oppose Trump, no matter what he does, even if 80 or 90% of Americans agree with him. You have these people that just have to oppose it. Some are journalists, some are, of course, in the Democratic Party. But that's how I've approached the book. It's how I approach my commentary is what's true, what are the facts, and is it in opposition to some narrative that people have put out? Oftentimes you'll find the answer is yes.
Compare this Trump administration to the first time in.
Well, I think this time he got the staff and the cabinet that matches his personality and his leadership style. That's my observation is being in the White House, being with him a little bit, interviewing the cabinet. He picked the team this time that best matches his leadership style. I think last time he was sort of melded together with people, all good people, people who were there, I think, for the right reasons, but they just weren't the match for this particular president. We don't have that problem this time. And I think that's one of the core reasons that he's been able to move so quickly on so many issues.
Well, he seems to be a person of action. I don't think anybody can say that. Is that sometimes an Achilles heel for him, or it's worth it because there's so much more good that comes from it?
Well, I think it's worth it because time is of the essence. I mean, one of the things I learned in writing this book is he knows time is short. I mean, you have a term, and then once you get past the midterms next year, you're on the downhill slope of the term. And so he's got a lot of balls in the air in terms of foreign policy, economic policy, and other issues. But I think he's doing them all at the same time because he knows he has a finite amount of time. Being in the White House, I can tell you, I'm not entirely sure who was running the country the last 4 years, but I'm quite sure who's running it right now. What I observed is the nerve center is the Oval Office. Donald Trump is at the center of it. And there's not a bunch of layers between him and everybody else. It's him talking to the cabinet, talking to the staff, talking to the people he's appointed, and demanding answers. One cabinet secretary said that when he asks you to do something, if he follows up on it, you get one chance to say, we're working on it, but you don't get two chances. And this is a guy who's like super hands-on with the cabinet and the team that he's put in place. And he's not really interested in waiting for you to, construct several committees back at the office and come back in 6 months. He wants answers right now.
Man, I hate when you're in a meeting that could have been an email. What about what about the and this is beyond your book, so this may be unfair because it was happening after you've completed the book. But do you think that there's going to be a rub between he and Elon Musk now that Elon is not exactly getting on board for the big beautiful bill?
I hope not, because I think Elon has been one of the most important cultural and recently political figures in modern American history. I mean, his business stuff, the visionary piece of him, it's really remarkable. And then he decides to get involved in politics, really for one of the reasons that I mentioned in the book title, for the future of Western civilization. I know he's not happy with this bill, but one thing they could do if they really wanted to do this right is send up a separate rescissions package, which is what the Senate rules call for. And so you could do the big, beautiful bill, which is the Trump agenda, and then separately codify some of the cuts that the Doge team has identified. You actually could do them both. And I think, and I hope President Trump calls on the Republican leadership to do that, because I think both are needed. The tax cuts that Trump is calling for, the energy deregulation, plus some of the just stupidity that Elon's team identified. I think it can all be done. And I really do hope the Republicans and President Trump work to retain Elon's influence, because I think it's been a net positive for the movement.
All right, we got about another minute and a half. The audience has to know, what is your life like at CNN? Are you treated well there? Are you constantly being ostracized? Do you eat lunch alone?
Well, I'm treated very well, and I just signed a new 3-year contract with the network, so they see the value in having at least one lonely person to speak for half or 80% of the country on any given night. And I have to say, they thought of putting this 10 o'clock debating show on the air. It gives us a chance to air out these big debates. No one ever tells me what to say. They don't hand me a script. They say, go do your thing. And, people are coming into it. They're seeing it in their social media feeds. The 10 o'clock show is our highest rated show. So treated quite well. I have to credit my employer for seeing the value and having an actual debate, because you don't get that on a lot of places.
I was about to say, who would have ever thought the audience would actually like to hear two sides of ideology debating back and forth, and then we pull the logic out of it on what we think might be best. One last thing, do you think that is CNN getting on board to help you with the book, or you have to fight Tapper for time?
They did let me promote it when we first announced the pre-orders, and I'm sure I'll do some stuff on it in the fall. It comes out November the 18th. So yeah, they'll help me out, and I'll also be able to do some other networks and some other media stuff, but I'm going to promote the heck out of it, because President Trump deserves a defense of what he is doing in this second term.
Amen.
And half or more than half the country deserves someone. There's going to be 100 books written crapping on Donald Trump, and I'm going to write the one that says, here's why he did it, here's why it makes a difference, and here's why it's good for America. It's called A Revolution of Common Sense: How Donald Trump Stormed Washington and Fought for Western Civilization. You can order it from Amazon or wherever you get your books, and it'll come out to you on November the 18th.
Yeah, go ahead and pre-order now. Go to Amazon, pre-order right now. It's there. As he said, the release is November the 18th, but go ahead and get ahead of it, so you'll just get it come right to you when it's available. Thank you, Scott, for taking time to be with us. I know a lot of people are pulling at you, and we're honored that you made time for us today.
Rick, I love your set. I love your show. I'm honored to be on with you today, and thanks for everything.
Thank you. Scott Jennings, there he is. A Revolution of Common Sense: How Donald Trump Stormed Washington and Fought for Western Civilization. Pre-order it now at Amazon. It releases on November the 18th. And, of course, catch Scott Jennings on CNN. As he just told you, he's going to be there another 3 years beyond this because everyone's enjoying that debate. We'll be right back.
This is the Rick Burgess Show.